What up, Wizards? It's Dev, SBMTG. Whoa, it's magic. And today, one that I'm actually pretty amped about, to be honest, because I know I'm not really like the modern guy around here. I don't talk about it much, but that doesn't mean I can't be excited about a thing that looks good, you know? If you're like, hey, Dev, you want to go to McAllister's? I don't know why I chose that restaurant. I'd be like, no, I don't. McAllister's is all right. I don't really feel like it, though. And then you'd be like, well, did you know that they have fried steak? McAllister's does not have fried steak. Where's this analogy going? I'd be like, fried steak at McAllister's? Yeah, then I'll go to McAllister's. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that Modern Horizons 2 is like fried steak at McAllister's. I have to workshop this analogy a little bit more. I don't even know what fried steak is. Like, where did I come up with that? I don't eat fried steak. I was just trying to think of the fattest thing I could think of off the top of my head, and out came fried steak. But anyway, let's get past the really clumsy analogy. I'm sorry about that. Don't worry about that. That didn't happen. Instead, let's talk about magic cards to cover, I think, is what we should do. And that's why you clicked on the video, I would imagine. So today, the top 10 Modern Horizons cards, everybody. That's why we're here. I'm back. Do the YouTube stuff and also these things if you'd like to. Now, first of all, maybe you like only watch my channel. Apparently there's like 10 people that do that. So I feel like I should probably tell you, in case you don't know anything about this set, that Ziggy's here, everybody. Hey, hey, bub. I should also tell you that the set looks really good. Like super stupid good. Like I can't sentence properly. I can't English well enough to tell you how good this set actually looks to me. It's kind of overwhelming, to be honest. So I fully encourage you to go check out like the full set spoiler on Mythic Spoiler or Scryfall or wherever you see Magic content. You all right, bud? Anyway, and there's a ton of ridiculous cards in here. You know, Murktide Regent looks amazing, even though I'm not sure that it's not just Terramander. It might just be Terramander at the end of the day. And then there's like Garth, who makes Black Lotus tokens, which is silly, but I'm a little disappointed there's no Wayne, Waka Waka. But, you know, there's also like a Doom Blade that turns into a Wrath of God. Good set. But today we're going to talk about the top 10 cards that I like the most from this set. Not even the ones that are just going to do all the things in every format, just the 10 cards, plus an honorable mention or two, that caught my eye the most and that I'm kind of the most excited to play for whatever reason. It's my list. It is my YouTube list. But there's probably going to be some stuff on here you expected to see. But there's probably going to be some stuff you didn't. So let's go ahead and get to the man, that is the YouTube tease, isn't it? There's probably some stuff you didn't expect on this list. What am I, BuzzFeed? Anyway, let's get to the list. Number 6 will shock you. But anyway, let's go ahead and, well, actually, will it? No, you know that one's coming, but let's get started with the honorable mentions here, like I like to do. It's just a way to cheat extra cards on the list. It's fun for me. But the honorable mention is a spot for cards that I don't think are actually like super good or even that exciting. They just pique my interest for whatever reason. And I think Strike It Rich is the perfect example of a card like that. If anything from this set gets the Reign of Revelation treatment and gets printed into Standard at some point, I'd really like it for it to be this card. Just petition for Strike It Rich in Standard. Although I think you could make a point that it might be too good in Standard. Is a mana for a mana in red on turn 1 too good? Turn 1 ramp in red in Standard? It might actually be too good, even if the card didn't have flashback. I think you can make a point this card is actually quite good in an environment like Standard, but you got to wonder what it's actually going to do in Modern, right? I think that in Storm, it's effectively 2 mana for 2 spells, which isn't bad. It's not terrible, but I think you feel pretty bad if you're flashing this thing back. But if you are just using it for turn 1 ramp in red, I think that there are probably applications in Modern for that. So it's not even that I don't think the card's going to see play. It's just exactly the kind of card that tends to catch my eye. Aside from that, the other honorable mention is Turok, just because it's Turok. Turok is here. It's on a card. It's awesome. It's so cool. And it's cool. You kick it. For some reason, it has kicker. I don't know why, but you kick it. And it hymns to Torax, the opponent. You know, they have to discard 2 at random, which is sweet. It's a really sweet card. And they just threw on protection from white because right now, well, it's a good card. Sweet card. I'm glad they printed Turok. That's really it, though. Now, my number 10 is often an extension of the honorable mentions, and that's kind of what we got going on here, but I felt like Solitary Confinement was cool enough to get a slot on the list. This looks like the most annoying card in the entire set, and it's probably pretty good in Commander, too. all things considered, especially if you have things on the board that help you draw more cards, thus fulfilling the conditions on this every turn, or, you know, maybe having counter spells to protect it from getting blown up or something like that. It just seems like it would become a real headache and take the whole game over, even at, you know, a 4-person or up commander table. It just really paints a target on you, but it's going to be pretty frustrating when they can't hit that target. Literally, they can't do it. This looks like Worship and Stasis had a baby, sort of, right? Like, you can't lose in any way whatsoever, for the most part. I mean, it doesn't say you can't lose, but you basically can't lose while this is out. And then but there's also a condition on it that you cannot fulfill forever because of the rest of the text on the card. So that's how it kind of reminds me of Stasis a little bit. But it's all awesome. The whole thing, the baby is pretty. It's a pretty little baby. It's a fat little baby that I like quite a lot. And so I want to be playing Solitary Confinement, but I'm pretty sure the moment you drop this on the commander table with a few open mana or maybe like an Isochron Scepter with a negate on it, people will not like you. So I generally want to be liked, so I probably won't be playing too much of this at the commander table, but it's a sweet card nonetheless. Now for number 9, I wanted to pick one of the Planeswalkers in the set, and there's some cool looking ones, like Dakin looks awesome. The guy that's an insect when it's not in play, that dude looks really sweet, actually. I think he might be like the most powerful Planeswalker in the set, but if I'm looking at a Planeswalker that I was the most interested in, Ziggy, you're slipping down my leg. You can't even see all this, but he's still down here. Hey, buddy. The Planeswalker that I thought was the coolest, at least, was Geodrone Daihada, which sounds like a sequel to a Bruce Willis movie. I thought of that joke the other night, and I was like, that's a good one. You gotta save that one for the video. Anyway, this is a sweet looking card, man. I like the flavor of corruption counters. I like the way it protects itself with corruption counters. The ultimate is really, really sweet too. It's a Grixis Planeswalker. There's not a thing about this that I don't like, and I just wanted to take a moment in this video to shine a spotlight on it because this card is sweet, and that's about all I got to say about it, is look how freaking sweet this card is. I guess that's pretty much the purpose of this list, is for just me to be like, look at the card, it's good. It's a good card, but with this card in particular, that's kind of all I can really say about it. Is like, I'm not sure this is great in Commander. I'm not sure that it's great in Modern. For that matter, it might be. It might actually be pretty sweet in Modern, but I don't know how good it is in that format. I just think that in terms of flavor and giving me a Grixis Planeswalker I can be proud of, they hit the nail on the head in those departments, and those are departments I really care about as a Magic player. But you know, another card that's super sweet is Priest of Fell Rites, which is my number 8. I love everything about this card, right? Like, you guys know I'm an Orzhov person. I'm in the Cathedral, tithing and vibing and all that stuff. Orzhov's my favorite guild, so every time I see a sweet new Orzhov card, I pop for it. I can't help it. It's my people's. I love Orzhov, but I also love Reanimation. And this is a 2-mana Reanimation spell on a body that you have to wait a turn for and pay some life. I don't care. It's still just 2 mana to tap this and then bring back any creature from your yard. That's so freaking good. And then, like, if they do kill it, or if they kill it without you reanimating anything, don't worry. Bring it back. Go ahead and tap it without even losing priority, because it has haste when you unearth it. And bring a stupid, giant, slobbering monster boy back from your graveyard and do cool stuff with it. Then it's totally fine. You might be able to get, 2 reanimations out of this, at least in a game. Which is just absolutely stupid. And it's good whether or not you're trying to reanimate like a huge dumb monster that ends the game, or you're just trying to get like value in a aristocrats kind of deck, like a self-sacrifice deck. There's just a lot of work for this thing to do. In aristocrats, it gets back key creatures and stuff, get you back a Blood Artist or a Zulaport Cutthroat or something. And then again, it can get huge. It can get a Gristlebrand if that's what you want to do with it. It's just such a silly creature, and I think that it's actually better than a lot of people are gauging it right now. But speaking of black 2-drops, number 7 is Dalty Voidwalker. This thing looks so sweet to me. First of all, it's got Dalty in the name, and anytime you do that, I get a little shot of nostalgia, so thanks for that, Wizards. But it also has Shadow, something else that, I guess most Dalty things do, but still. Shadow's an ability that I will also pop for pretty much every time, but it's this mini Tergrid ability that I'm super happy about. Just being able to just play stuff from your opponent's yard in a format with Thoughtseize is silly. It's just a silly thing. By the way, this format also has Lurrus of the Dream Den, and this is a 2-drop, so have a lot of fun with that. I imagine people will. I know that this is a 2-drop that has to wait to really do much of anything, just like the last card I just talked about, right? That's kind of a big deal in Modern, but I think that especially with Lurrus of the Dream Den in the format, this does more than enough, and is annoying enough to see an awful lot of play. I mean, if you thought that Modern was a Thoughtseize format in the first place, and in a lot of ways it is, from what I understand of it, it's probably going to be even worse with this card in the format. I'm not sure if it's the all-star I want it to be, but I do think that especially with Lurrus around and powerful discard effects in the format, a card like this looks pretty dangerous. And if it's not dangerous and it's actually balanced, that's a good thing. The card is still sick. Now, my number 6 is, I guess, Merfolk, because we got a lot of sweet Merfolk in the set, right? We got Civilian. I don't know how to pronounce this thing's name. And that looks like a sweet new legend for the deck, right? We got Tide Shaper, which is probably an upgrade on Tide Shaper Mystic. If you're trying to give your opponent an island, so you can island walk through, thanks to Lord of Atlantis. If you're on that plan, and you almost certainly are, then Tide Shaper is probably just an upgrade, and it looks like a sweet card too. But obviously, Rishadan Dockhand is what I'm really going to give this slot to. A lot of one-drop creatures on this list. As a matter of fact, from here on out, there's a fair amount of one-drop duders. But those are some of my favorite creatures, especially when they're powerful enough. And when they call back to Rishadan Port, it seems pretty powerful. I mean, Rishadan Port didn't cost any mana. It's on a difficult-to-remove permanent type, and I think that is going to make a huge difference here, but I still think that Dockhand is probably going to see a fair amount of play at the end of the day because Rishadan Port's ability is very stupid. It doesn't look like it's that impactful to tap a land. It's great. It's really, really great, it turns out, and this will probably see all the play in the world. But we're halfway through the list, and number 5 is a one-drop guy that I did not expect to be number 5 on the list. Like when I first started making this thing, this card was in the honorable mentions, and it just kept like, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no, I think this card might actually be like good to the point of being broken in some ways. So I guess for number 5, we're going to talk about Ravenous Squirrel of all things. This appears to just be a novelty. There's a bunch of squirrels in this set. Mark Rosewater went absolutely just nuts with, I didn't even mean to make that pun. He went acorns on this set. And there's just a bunch of squirrels, which I'm happy about. A lot of them look really cool, but this is easily my favorite one because, you know, I'm a sucker for aristocrat stuff. I'm a sucker for decks that want to sacrifice all their dudes and whatnot. You got Zulaport Cutthroats and Blood Artists and Bastion of Remembrance and all that stuff. And this, it's just a perfect one-drop for those decks. Like, even outside of formats like Commander or whatever, like, I mean, like, in Modern, I think this might actually make some kind of impact because it's a one-drop that gets to, you know, 3/3, 4/4, or even 5/5, like, relatively fast. I'm not sure that it's a, you know, we're at Tarmogoyf levels where that was a 2-drop that got to a 5/6 really quickly. But I think that it's, like, somewhat, if you're doing the right things, it's somewhat comparable, right? Because Tarmogoyf wants you to put a bunch of cards in the yard to get bigger. This is the same thing, only it only costs 1 mana, and it can be in mono black or mono green decks. If it's in black green, then it's really easy to cast. If it's in a 3-color deck, it's really easy to cast. So I like that about it. But even disregarding, like completely disregarding the activated ability, which is sweet to have. Mana sinks are good, drawing cards good, gaining life I guess is fine sometimes, but drawing card is especially good. But just even if it didn't have the activated ability on it, I would be like somewhat excited about this thing because in the right deck, you're going to sacrifice a couple of permanents a turn or even more. Or imagine if you, I don't know, like Plumb the Forbidden or something like that and sacrifice 4 or 5 guys, leaving this on the battlefield, and suddenly you got a big squirrel. It's a big squirrel, guy. So like I could actually see this card doing a fair amount of work, even in decks that only get like incremental value, sacrificing 1 or 2 things every couple of turns. Suddenly you got a 5/5 squirrel. It's going to happen faster than you think it is. So I think that just for 1 mana, this is kind of an outrageously rated card. It's a good card. Now at number 4, like just outside of the top 3, I'm going to put the Evoke guys. The Evoke, they might be ladies. The Evoke ladies. The Sailor Scouts. Because I think that a couple of these cards might have like just a severe impact on the whole modern environment. And even formats beyond, you know, Legacy or perhaps even Vintage in some cases. But then some of them aren't great. You know, a white one isn't great. The red one, I guess, is removal on turn 1, which is, I guess it could be all right. It could be all right. It could be played. But I specifically think that the black one and the blue one are just like absurd. You know, like the black one is a free Thoughtseize. You do have to cut yourself down in terms of card advantage, but you don't necessarily have to, I guess. The play everyone's talking about is turn one, evoke this guy, and then ephemerate it off of the planes that you played. And then he comes back into play, and you just have a 3-power menace body, and you've Thoughtseized the opponent, which is nuts. That's brilliant play, my friend. So it does seem like a fairly dangerous play in Modern that I think might affect the format to some extent. It makes Orzhov look really, really good, but even just by itself, it's a fine play. You know, like the blue one, I don't even think needs any specific tricks to be a good card. It's just a free Essence Scatter that is on the level with like Force of Will or Foil or a counterspell like that. That's effectively free and doesn't hit a lot of amazing targets. That's the thing about the blue one, is that it only being kind of an Essence Scatter that's not really a counterspell. More on that in a second. But it being an Essence Scatter is probably much worse than it being a negate. You know, probably, but there's still a ton of really important creatures that you don't want to enter the battlefield really, really early in the game. And I can see the blue one being sweet, whether you're playing it early for its free cost, or even if you just have the mana late to play it in the blue-white control deck, which is already a force in Modern. If you just have the mana to play it, it seems like a pretty disgusting play to just Essence Scatter your guy, get a 3/2 for 4 mana. That's not too bad. The last thing I'll say here is that it's not a counterspell, and that's actually good. That means it gets around things that can't be countered. You know, rather than putting something into the graveyard where it can be accessed by any number of means, it just puts it on the bottom of the library or shuffles it in. I think it puts it on the bottom of the library, if I remember correctly, which is actually one of the better places you could put a card some of the time. You know, your opponent has fetch lands in Modern to shuffle the card back into their library, which kind of sucks. But again, there are a lot of times where you don't want them to reanimate a card, you don't want them to escape a card or something like that. And so putting it not in their graveyard is actually a pretty decent function of this card, depending on what you're countering. So there's that too. There's a lot of actually really good things about the fact that it isn't a counterspell. I just wanted to point that out. But again, some of these cards are super powerful, some of them aren't, which is kind of what's landing them at number 4. But the ones that are good are kind of repulsive. Now at number 3 here, just to start the top 3, I gotta put G as Will. This just looks filthy, man. Like, I'm running out of like adjectives, you know, synonyms for broken at this late date in the video. But I want to say the other 2 cards aren't necessarily broken. This could be, but I don't know that it is enough to make it my number 1 card. But I have a strong compulsion to make green Yawgmoth's Will that costs no mana the turn you play it my number 1 card, because, like, did you hear what I just said? Did you hear the string of words that came out of my mouth? It's a green Yawgmoth's Will that's free the turn you cast it. That's unbelievable. Like, there's going to be a lot of combo decks that want to leverage a card like this because Yawgmoth's Will is just so unbelievably powerful. It's such a stupid card that it shouldn't even exist in the first place. So you're going to make it green. Like, green really does get everything now, I guess. But, you know, free Yawgmoth's Will is, like, downright dangerous. And I want the card to actually show what it can do before I, really put the card at, like, number 1 on the list. But again, I really kind of want this to be number 1. It looks that good to me. Imagine, the places you'll go with a free green Yawgmoth's Will. It's just, why did they print this? That's kind of how I feel about it. I feel like we're going to look back on this and call it a mistake, but I've been wrong. Glorious Protector was my number 1 Kaldheim card. Jadzi was my number 1 Strixhaven card, so sometimes. Although Glorious Protector and Jadzi could still see play. They could. We got a whole rotation coming up. They'll still be playable. They could. But still, you get the point I'm trying to make. Sometimes weird calls on this channel, but this one I'm fairly confident. This is a silly card to exist in the first place. All right, at number 2, we got to talk about Rawgavin. Raw Gavin. I like that. We're going to talk about Raw Gavin here. Because this card does too many things. It really does. It just keeps going, you know. It's a 1-mana 2/1 that also has dash. Why does it have dash? It doesn't have to have dash, but it just does. That also creates a treasure token and also gets you a card sometimes. Sometimes it just gets you a card. That's so stupid. It's a 1-drop. That's a Savannah Lions, so it's pretty juiced in terms of power level in aggro decks. That just gets you. It's like better than a Robber of the Rich most of the time. It just gets you a card and it just creates mana on a 1-drop. Like, why does it do all of the things that it does? Would it be that much worse if it didn't have dash? Yeah, but it's really good as a top deck because it has dash. It's just, God, the card is just absolutely silly, and it's got to be on the list somewhere. And I didn't want this to be just like, these are the most powerful cards in the set. I wanted it to be my favorite cards in the set, but like, there's quite a lot of intersection between those two things when it comes to a card like Raw Gavin, which is what I will always call him from now on. But the card is just, it's good. What else am I supposed to say besides to read it? And then if you don't understand after I read it that the card is silly, it's a silly card, and it does exist. It's not like an uncard. You can play it. It's competitively playable. It exists. It's cardboard. It's real. You can touch it. Not in this video, but if you get the card in real life, you can. It's real. This thing is a 1-drop that does all of these things. I shouldn't have to tell you after reading it that it's a dumb card. Can we go on to the next one? Because, like, I mean, I think we're all going to get sick of looking at it. Any modern players in the crowd probably going to get sick of looking at this card before too long. So let's go ahead and cut this part of the video off so you don't have to look at it anymore, because it won't be long before you hate it. I promise. And my number 1 is Esper Sentinel. Yeah, a lot of 1-drop dudes in this video, but this is a white 1-drop that draws cards. That's good. Again, I mean, we've been wanting white card draw for a while. And this is a delivery of that. It's just so stupid. It's a silly card. You can increase the Sentinel's power, and then they have to pay more mana or else you draw a card. You can have multiple Sentinels out. Imagine that, you know, in a deck that's already taxing the opponent, like a Talia deck or something. Thalia deck, rather. say the name correctly. It's just, it's that much better. I mean, whew, like, it looks good on the commander table. It looks especially good on the commander table. But I do think this is probably going to see some amount of modern play. I mean, if your opponent wants to deal with it before too long, they're probably either going to have to lose some tempo on the deal or give you a card, which is not something they want to do. And again, facing down multiple copies of these in the first couple of turns is not something anybody wants to do. So it's just a good Magic card, whether your opponent's trying to sweep the board or they're trying to just take care of it on a singular basis, 1-for-1 removal. It's going to tax them. And if even if, you know, if they can't pay the tax or they just don't want to, drawing the card is just, it's mono white. You're drawing cards. It's just like, it's only 1 mana. Like, what did you expect to be my number 1? You know, Regavin does more stuff than this card does, and I think it's probably going to be a little bit more ubiquitous on the modern scene than this, but this is probably going to see way more play at the end of the day in Commander, where it's just an unbelievable card. You can't get multiple copies in Commander. I guess you can copy it. There's got to be a way. Commander, this might just be like the new Ristic Study. Do you pay it? You know, the new Smothering Tithe. Do you pay it? White has a lot of cards like that now, doesn't it? It's an annoying Commander color. It's like what White does best in Commander. But all the Commander players that wanted White to draw cards, there you go. And if you're a modern player who wants White to draw cards, there you go. And it's also good for other reasons. It's good if it's got good creature types and stuff. It's a sweet little card for just 1 white. I just can't get over the fact this is a 1-drop. I can't do it. Can we? I don't want cards like this in Standard. I was going to say, can we get cards like this in Standard? It's called Throne of Eldraine. Don't want it. I do want Evoke back. I feel like Adventures are just a stronger version of Evoke, because you always get the spell and the creature with Adventure, whereas Evoke you have to choose unless you can blink. But if you blink it, then it costs mana on the same turn that you cast the Evoke have. Whereas Adventures, you get to split the mana cost in installments, and you always get the creature. You don't have to spend a card on blinking it. I've gone off onto a tangent now about why I think Adventure is just a strictly better version of Evoke, and I didn't plan on doing that, but still, if we can have Adventure in Standard, we can have Evoke in Standard. So I think it's just a worse ability that's nonetheless still a really good ability. That's I didn't plan on that rant. Again, I apologize. I want Evoke back in Standard. I want Flash back in Standard again. I just want my mechanics back. Can I have my mechanics back? I want them. But anyway, that's the video. I don't know why I had to go off on a tangent like that, but that's Esper Sentinel's such a good Magic card. I can't believe half of these cards even exist in the first place. But let me know in the comment section what would have been on your list. That's important. I'm interested in your point of view on this, because Modern Horizons 2 is such a bomb set. Like, not in the bad way either. Usually when sets bomb, that's bad. But this set is a bomb It's good. It's a good set. It's a very good set. Usually I have more to say about a set, and I have like more in-depth insights. But now I'm just like super happy this set exists. I know it's like ungodly expensive, and that's dumb. I don't like that. Money is not even. It's not even real. You know. It's real to us here on the ground, but. In any case, you know, Wizards is making all the money in the world, and this set is going to cost, what, $700 for a box? It's not that much. Imagine if it was. But it costs a lot of money to buy this set, and that's stupid. But set looks really good. Set looks so stupid good. So let me know down there in the comments section what cards you like the most, or any how you felt about my takes. Do all the stuff. You see all this stuff down here. Is it down here? Yeah, it's down here this time. It's Twitch. You can watch me play Magic there. Just go. It's following is free on Twitch. You do that. You can watch me. Well, you don't watch me, but I'll tweet stuff on Twitter. There it is. And then if you want to support the channel, you can do that. $1 a month to vote on content. So yeah, you get a voice. $1 a month, and you tell me what to do. That's a pretty good deal. So do the stuff, and then also like and subscribe. Do that stuff. But I had a fun one this time around. But we're gonna get back to more standard content soon. But do know that it's like 2 weeks until we get Forgotten Realms spoilers, the Dungeons and Dragons set that will be playable in standard. So stick with the channel and make sure you subscribe, because like it's almost spoiler season again for a set we can actually play in standard. So yeah, make sure you're keeping up with me for that. But aside from that, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let me know how you felt, and I'll catch you cats later. I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.